All right, I think we're just going to give it one more minute. What do you think, Jill? Okay, Paula. All right, getting some thumbs up. So I think we'll just give it another 30 seconds or so, and then I think we can get started. Smita, hey, I see you're on.
Hello.
All right, awesome. Okay, I like that you said Highland Park. You're like super specific. I like it.
I know, I feel like I'm lying when I say Chicago.
Yeah, if you're in the suburbs, you're yeah, definitely. Thanks for being super specific. Okay, well, I think we can get started now since we're just about 4 minutes past 7:30 Central. So hello, everybody, and welcome to the September Salon on the topic of women and financial empowerment. So right before we get started with our incredible speaker tonight, Minoti Rajput, I just wanted to introduce Post-March Salon because I think we see some new faces on the screen tonight. So my name is Preya Dave. I'm located in Chicago along with Jill Choksey. We are the programming chairs for Post-March Salon. So for those of you who may not know, PMS was started in 2017 by two really courageous female activists, Ravina Singh and Palak Sheth, in San Francisco. And they really wanted to transform how they were feeling into sustained action. So from this idea grew this really kick-ass organization full of women who meet at the same time every month to connect and to converse and to organize. Most importantly, we take action by doing 4 really incredible things. First is taking action on pivotal political campaigns to win elections. We educate ourselves on timely social justice and policy issues, and we engage in our community through volunteerism. Lastly, we have formed this incredible community with like-minded women all over the country. So we have a chapter in Chicago and we have a chapter, the original chapter in San Francisco, but we went virtual in March of 2020. And since then, we have been able to connect with women all over the country. And it's been amazing to see our growth nationwide. What I love most about this organization is how uniquely accomplished all these women are, yet how extremely humble they are. And I think it's rare to see that in an organization, but we really encourage you to keep in touch with us via social media. So we are on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. You can send us an email at hi@postmarchsalon.com to be added to our listserv and get our newsletter. And I think either Smita or Jill, if you could just drop the email in the chat, I think that would be great so people have that. And lastly, if you have any ideas for speakers or really inspiring women that you know that you really want to get in front of a really amazing group, let us know because we're always open to new ideas, to new speakers, and kind of just broadening our network as well. A few housekeeping things, if you could stay on mute so we can be respectful of our speaker. And if you have any questions, you can chat them into the chat. And Jill will filter the questions, and as our speaker goes through her presentation, we might be able to ask a few questions then, but we'll definitely have Q&A at the end. At the end, we also like to take a group picture, so if you can go on your video, we'd like to have that memory of each of our salons. So I don't want to take too much time, but I do want to introduce our incredible speaker tonight. Her name is Minoti Rajput. She began her career in personal wealth planning soon after arriving from India in 1980. She's a certified financial planner. She's a chartered special needs consultant with an MBA in finance. Minoti is an entrepreneur and she's the founder of Secure Planning Strategies, a company that she started more than 3 decades ago. She's well recognized in her field and she focuses on comprehensive planning, addressing all areas of planning, but her real expertise is in the areas of business planning, special needs planning, and retirement planning. But she's most passionate about empowering women on financial matters, which is awesome. I can't wait to hear from her. So she's an educator, an author, a counselor, and a very sought after speaker on various financial planning topics. She lives in Michigan with her husband and is the mother of 2 daughters who are on the call tonight, which is also very special. So without delaying further, I want to pass it to you, Minoti Auntie. Welcome. We're so excited to have you, and we're so excited to learn about this important topic.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I'm going to share my screen to start the presentation. And I commend PMS for choosing this topic for tonight's salon. It's a topic close to my heart. And I hope that everyone who is attending tonight walks away with a couple of ideas that they can implement in their financial planning. So why am I so passionate about this topic? When the year I turned 20 was also the year my family experienced a major setback in their financial situation. From being very comfortable, we really faced some very hard times. And that was also the beginning of my very brilliant father's dementia. And my mother, who was always a homemaker, she was smart and she was educated, but her job was to raise the children. And she had never participated in any of those financial matters. That was my father's job. So the responsibilities, a lot of them came upon my sister and me. And more than the difficult years, that shaped me, what I remembered the most was my mother's helplessness and her feeling of guilt for not being able to help the family or having been there right from the beginning to know how to handle things like that. And that's what determined me to be always financially educated and make sure that the women in my life are always financially savvy. Fast forward when I came to the United States and began my journey in financial planning as a career, things were no different. The women of the West were also the same as my mother. Majority of them did not participate in any financial decision-making process. And that still continues, and they also pay a price for that. And when I say that it still continues, there are exceptions, but majority of the times I find that women do not focus as much as they need to get involved in financial matters. And so in this extended period of my career, I have chosen to make sure that I continue to advocate for women and make sure that they are financially educated. And so as I share this, I know who you all are. My audience is the same as this picture here looks like. Many of you are physicians, attorneys, engineers, teachers. Some of you are self-employed. Some of you work for large corporations. Many of you have taken a break from work. You're a homemaker, you're raising your children. And none of you here are probably retired, but you're all aspiring to retire someday. Some of you are married, some of you are unmarried with a significant other. Many of you are single or may have been single because of a divorce, or unfortunately, you may have lost a spouse. Doesn't matter, all of these women have the same common issue. The goal should be to be financially secure and know how they can be financially secure. What are some of the challenges that women typically face? We know that life expectancy wise, women live longer than a typical man does. As a result of which, their retirement period is longer than the male counterpart. And so during their old ages, they're often alone and they live a very long life being sick and alone. And so those are all depressing things to think about. But also statistically, we find that women by and large have less income than men do. And women often take career breaks to have children. But I find that a lot of women take breaks to take care of their elderly relatives. And women often invest conservatively. I remember last year, as part of my women's project that I'm doing here, I met a woman, 46 years old, a very, very bright corporate lawyer, 46 years old. And when she shared her financial information with me, I was quite taken aback that since 2008-9, she has not dared to step in the market, and 100% of her 401k amount was all in money market. She has stayed back while the market has moved on. So women, I find, do things like this more than I see men doing them. What does the financial involvement really involve? Why does it matter? I find that some women, very, very few, are very involved. They really know the numbers, they know where their finances are, they know the taxes, but they're a very small percentage. Um, some women are involved to a certain extent, and I would say they're more passively involved. They perhaps participate a little bit, but they don't really know the big picture. I find a lot of women between the ages of 30 and 45 today are getting more involved in finances because perhaps there is a lot more conversation about it than it ever was before. But some women still choose not to be involved at all. And maybe there are reasons, because in a household, maybe there's a division of labor. And the woman, it's easy for them to manage their career, the children affair, and other household matters. Because we all tend to do things that comes easy to us. And I don't know why, but we are brain-wise also structured in such a way that finance is not something that women always enjoy. So they are not interested always, but even those who want to do it, they would much rather shift it to the male partner in the family. And sometimes the male member of the family really wants to be in charge and control, but also the woman thinks that the male person is perhaps better at it and they don't want to take a chance at even making an attempt to do so. So what does the taking charge really mean? Does it mean that you have to know how to trade, buy which stocks that you need to get, or watch CNBC? Well, maybe not. That's not necessarily what being financially involved means. Do you read your investment statements? I mean, whether it's in the electronically sent to you, or most people think, my gosh, it's just piling up. Where is my shredder? I just need to get rid of it. What about taxes? How much do you know about the taxes? You may say that this is my tax bracket, but do you just sign on the dotted line on April 15th and you let somebody else take care of the tax matters? Do you know what your employee benefits are through the employer that you get? Do you know what percentage of your wages are you putting in your 401k? How much is your employer matching? Do you know how much group life insurance you have? How much will the disability pay you in case you're disabled? What about the cash flow? When was the last time you looked at the expense versus income? More than anything else, I would say it's about time that you start doing that. Common financial mistakes that women typically make. Women are usually very generous and considerate of others more than themselves. They often prioritize the need of other family members. They're always helping their siblings, adult children, parents. They don't always like to participate in their meetings with their spouses or partners, the accountant or the financial professional, because there's a priority here. I have to take my daughter to the dance class, or I have to work late. You go, you just tell me what's going on. But what I have seen over and over again, a lot of women don't always know where their money is. They have accounts scattered. They may have 5 different checking accounts and savings account, and they have mutual funds here and stock account here. And they really haven't had a chance, or they have not tried to put their arms around where everything's to really keep a tab of what they should. And whenever it comes to, well, you need to know all these things, there's always tomorrow. Procrastination becomes a disease at some point. So what tools do you need for financial security? What do you need to do? We will talk about get involved, but there are 2 things that one must recognize. Every business, if you want to know the financial health of any business, you have to take a look at their profit and loss statement and their balance sheet. Your family is also a company, it's a business. And for you, the profit and loss is your income expense statement, and the balance sheet is your net worth statement. So we are going to talk a lot about that. What does the get involved part in detail mean? You have to realize that you alone are responsible for your financial well-being, for your financial security. You exercise and eat well for your personal health. why wouldn't you do that for your financial health? Getting to know and practicing some basic simple things is the beginning, and that's the right steps to take for your financial health. Take time to educate yourself. I know every minute of your day is assigned for, it's taken. How do you fit in something like this? You don't have to get big books or read important articles. The start is to really know what you need to have and what do you have, and how do you expand from that from your base knowledge. Get organized. People are often too scattered. Their personal assets, like I said, that they have too many accounts, but even the statements in their home are always in a pile. They're not organized properly. This is my retirement account. This is my non-retirement account. This is my Roth. This is my regular IRA. And benefits at any given time, I really would like to ask anybody. If I ask you, can you tell me if you get disabled, what percentage of your salary will you get as a disability benefit? I would like you to graduate to the level you can have those numbers in your head, because you never know when you might need it. We all know that you have to establish a good credit. I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but set your short-term and long-term financial goals. What does that mean? Do you want to move in a bigger house in 3 years? What will that entail? How much do you need to accumulate to put a bigger down payment? You want to start your 8-year-old son to a private school. How much is it going to cost? You're going to be 40 in a couple of years and you want to take a big family trip. All those things are your short-term goals. And then, of course, I don't want to work until I'm 65. I want to retire when I'm 58 years old. Well, how many more years do I have? That comes in your long-term financial goals, and everything that you set aside or have a goal has regular steps that you have to take care of, and there is work to be done on that. Create an emergency reserve. Very important, adequate cash reserve. The definition is that minimum 6 months of expenses. That's why the cash flow statement is so important. If you don't know what your expenses are, how do you multiply it by 6? Now, the older you get, people like me, I would like at least 1 to 1.5 years worth of expenses in cash. I don't care whether it earns 1% or 0% or 2%. That doesn't have to be invested at all. That's just emergency reserve. Not having enough of that sometimes will have consequences. Monitor the plan regularly. I tell my daughters, I tell my clients, have a financial date with your partner or with yourself or with your husbands, whoever it is that's important in your life, and you have joint assets with, or you have a household of financial things together. And then, you may complain that we don't even get time to go for a regular date for pleasure. You are putting on top of that a financial date, but that's the time you prepare yourself and just bring yourself up to date where you are from where you were last month. So this is the main crux of our presentation, fundamentals of finance every woman should know. Whenever I have attended a social event or somebody asks me, what do you do? And I said, I'm a wealth advisor and a financial planner. The first thing they start talking about is, what's the investment market doing today? Apple went up so much, and look, today's market fell 600 points. They don't realize that investment, although important, but it's only a segment of overall financial plan. The 5 main categories are risk management, investments, retirement plan, income tax planning, and estate planning. And they are all connected with each other. Doing just one segment of it will not give you the desired complete financial security with good results. However, the most important tool that I want to address is cash flow and net worth statement. So this is a condensed version of my presentation. Normally, this is minimum hour and a half plus 15, 20 minutes for question. So I'm going to spend more time on cash flow and net worth, risk management, maybe touch a little bit on investments, retirement planning, and income tax planning is just 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute, but I want to spend a lot of time on estate planning matters. So cash flow and net worth. For people like us, advisors, the these two categories, the cash flow, income expense statement, and the net worth statement are really a diagnostic tools. We can tell a lot about a couple, a family, where they are and what their habits are, what have they done, where they lack, and how these two tools are connected with all others area of planning. So the goal for any cash flow or any financial security is to tell your money where to go instead of asking where it went. You have to be in charge of assigning your income to various categories instead of worrying about what the heck happened to my money. So income minus expenses is your net cash flow. So here are the different things in income, whether it's your salary, self-employment income. For retirees, it's a different category. All the things that you see here, we have it in a format here in the cash flow. So I'm just showing this to you, but Emily, who is also attending today, she is my technology and social media partner. And Emily, if you can drop the fillable blank cash flow and net worth statement in the chat, maybe everybody can use the link for later. But the way you address this is, and some people may use the different apps for this, whatever you use, but here's how you list your income, and then you have the other sources of income. If you're retired, if you're divorced, you have child support and things like that. Then you take a look at what is being deducted from your salaries, which is our basic federal, state FICA taxes. You also contribute from your income, 401k, maybe you put aside money in 529 plan or a religious saver. This part everybody gets easily. The income, what is withheld for taxes, and where they are contributing directly from salary. Where they get lost is the expense part. And the expenses are, here is very simple way of tabulating here: residence, utilities, household, food, groceries, educational, but when your children have nanny, Montessori, personal care, and you have the automobile, insurance, recreation, all of those are your living expenses. So it's very obvious that once you have the income minus some deductions, minus what you have available to live on, it should all tally, right? And we will have some real life cases to work on where you'll have a better understanding. After I talk to you about net worth, everybody should have a net worth statement. You list your assets and you subtract your liabilities, and that's what the net worth is. That's how we assess the value of a business. So in your net worth categories, you start with the non-liquid, which is real estate. You may have other summer home or something like that. So those are your non-liquid assets. In the non-retirement, which is your after-tax money, you list those. Retirement assets, you list those. And then you have the liability. You have an outstanding mortgage, student loan, consumer loan, home equity loan, and things like that. So we have a form for that because assets are owned by ownership. Husbands, wives, joint, non-retirement assets, retirement assets, and again, you have the life insurance and other liabilities. So asset minus liability is your net worth. The goal is always to increase your net worth over a period of time. At your stages in life, you cannot hope to have a very high net worth because sometimes you have a large mortgage or you have a student loan. Really, after the ages of 40, 42, people start to see a steady increase in their net worth. But when you don't see it going, you have to really examine what's happening, which we will do right after we take a few case studies here. So I'm going to introduce here the cash flow of this couple that I met last year. And I asked them to complete their cash flow, and this is what they came up with. This is Cynthia, who is 38. She's a physician assistant. And we have Aaron, who is a computer engineer turned a commercial real estate agent in New York area. So he's self-employed, and he has been in real estate for the last 6 years. So Cynthia's salary is about $100,000, and Aaron's income has steadily grown And this is all taken directly from their 1040, the tax return that they send me. So their income has been $620,000. And this is a sum of all of the taxes that they have been paying, federal, state, FICA, City of New York taxes. It is 35% of their salary. They have contributed $24,500 in their retirement plan, and they have been religiously putting $1,500 in 529 plans for their two children, 4 and 2, and they are also putting aside about $40,000 after tax money in savings and other account. So that category is $82,500. So now if I take the gross salary, 620 minus 217,000 in taxes, minus $82,000 in savings, they are left with $320,000. Let's go over their expenses. So they live in New York. Earlier this year, they bought a 3-bedroom home. And of course, New York properties are expensive. Their mortgage is $5,800. Then they have a HOA, property taxes, the utilities, all of that taken into consideration. They are spending almost $120,000 just on housing. And then food, groceries is $850. This, of course, includes cleaning supplies and things like that. I smiled a little bit when I saw the clothing expense of $14,200. And I asked Aaron, are you required to wear expensive outfits for your work? I mean, your suits and whatever else. And he said, no, it's my wife's expenses mostly. So you take into account what's happening there. Their daycare, nannies, and all of those expenses are $68,000. Many of you probably can attest to that. And she put down a category called Amazon, $18,000 a year. Amazon is not a category. It's the name of a vendor. So you're buying various things that has to follow in this other category. So make sure that you break it down as to where the money is going. And then they only have one car. They only need one car. It's New York. They use different modes of transportation. And then I noticed that she is the health insurance carrier, and the family, her employer is generous. They spend about $600 a month. And I noticed that they didn't have any life insurance expense and no disability insurance expense. So I noted that too, and we'll discuss that when we talk risk management. Dining out carryouts is $900 a month, and their shows, entertainment, minor expense, vacation holidays, $15,000. So all in all, is their living expenses are $286,000. They were left with $320,000. So there's a $33,000 missing amount. So this is what I have seen every single time. Very rarely can people come up with maybe just 1% here and there, but this is almost $3,000 a month. You have to know where the money is going instead of asking where it went. Let's take a look at their net worth statement. So obviously, as I said, they live in New York. Their properties are expensive. Their house is $2.2 million. And the money that he has been saving, they were able to take the equity of the last home as well as the money they had saved and put as a down payment. So they have an equity of $1 million. And then this is all of their non-retirement assets. The cash is $200,000, brokerage account $325,000. It's all in Aaron's name. And then he has vested stock options from the engineering firm that he worked with, and he had taken it out of the, he was already vested, so it's sitting in his brokerage account. So they have about $1 million in this account. Now, I don't want you to judge this by what their income is. It doesn't really matter what your joint income is. You just have to, your expenses are going to be proportionate to your income, but the philosophy is the same. Do you know where your money is going? And so it's here how much they are putting aside in SEP IRA, have accumulated in SEP IRA. So here is where I found out why they don't have any life insurance expense, because he does not. Aaron doesn't have any life insurance. But when I added up everything that they owned, mine subtracted the mortgage and everything, And this is Cindy's student loan, their total net worth, assets minus liability. When I added this up all, it's $2.6 million. Minus 100,000 of life insurance is $2.5 million. So their liquid net worth is $1.5 million after you subtract the home equity, because your home is a use asset. The goal is going to be, whoever is thinking about retirement, is this is your net worth that we want to make sure that it continues to grow. I also want to introduce to you another couple, and this is, pardon me for this. This is Jonathan and Mira. And this is a couple I met earlier this year. And here, Mira is the higher wage earner. That is very common in many couples. She is a primary care physician. He's an engineer. And they're really trying to do everything right. She also gets a gift from her parents every year of $15,000. And I'm going to go through this very quickly. I'm sorry. Can you see this? Okay, so they are both contributing the maximum they can in 401k plan. It's $19,500 each, and they are putting aside money in education plan. This is all the cash flow that they have here. And interestingly, I noticed that he's putting aside $3,000 a year. Where is that? $3,000 a year for a long-term care policy for Jonathan's mother. And I found out that his father died after struggling in an assisted living facility very young. He had Parkinson's, and this lost a lot of money with his care. So he was very concerned about a long-term care policy. And they're doing everything right, and yet they couldn't quite come up with what's happening to $30,000 at the end of after they had tabulated. So we'll revisit them again, but I also want to share another case, and this is where this is the case for Heather. Heather is very concerned because she just turned 39. She lives in the Bay Area. She is a self-employed person in the tech area. She apologized and said, I just couldn't come up with my cash flow. But she was concerned that she has not really started to save, although she's going to be 40 next year. So she has 60,000 in the bank, and she has a IRA that was her former 401k plan that she's letting a robo-advisor manage that. And she has inherited a Roth IRA that her grandmother left for her. She has a $10,000 student loan. So I meet women from all walks of life with different kinds of concern. And the only reason I want to bring her situation up is because when I asked her, her income last year was $150,000. This year is going to be $180,000. And she said that I often am very generous to my sisters, my parents. I've paid for their vacation, but I have a closet full of designer shoes and designer bags. Unfortunately, those things don't pay for your retirement. Okay. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you. And some of those things we will come back to when we see how they get connected to other areas of planning. So when you see that the net worth is not increasing, what could be the reason? No spending discipline. As I said, people sometimes are living high, and there is nothing wrong in wanting to take a very nice vacation. Some people say, I worked so hard. I worked hard all my life. Don't I deserve a bigger home, better home? I think you have to really decide on your priorities and see the consequences of spending any kind of money today, how it's going to affect the future. But job losses will happen, and health-related matters will happen. So as a result of which, emergency reserves, if you don't have it adequate, you'll be forced to pull it out from your retirement accounts and investments, and perhaps sometimes at the wrong time. Jonathan is buying long-term care policy for the mothers just so that he doesn't have to help with bigger expenses. Market corrections will take place. Those are temporary setbacks in your net worth. But inappropriate investment portfolio design, either being too conservative or too aggressive, both will have inadvertent or undesirable results. But insufficient risk management plan, not having disability or life insurance, will also hurt you as much. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is risk management. Because I'm not going to be able to touch all of those segments in detail, you're all going to be invited to complete a Google form if you want to have a consultation. And you can at that time say what you want to learn more about related to your personal situation. What is risk management? There could be financial loss created by various events, and paying premium to an insurance company and transferring those risks to prevent those financial losses is what risk management and insurance is all about. So we know all those risk exposures that we have is health, automobiles, property casualty. I was not going to touch necessarily in any depth the property casualty or other insurance, but a couple of people who are attending know about this, that a client of mine just about 3-4 weeks ago, who lives in New Jersey with her husband and her 8-year-old son, the Hurricane Ida completely destroyed her home with her 2 cars. And fortunately, she was visiting her family in California at that time. But to lose, being 36, 37-year-old and having this major trauma, made me contact our property casualty agent and explain to us step by step how much is our coverage. So I urge you to take a look at your coverage, whether it's a liability or homeowners. In Michigan, we don't have those issues, but lots and lots of basements were flooded this summer. And a lot of you living on the West Coast, Emily, my partner, has personally experienced fire. And so some time ago, I was asked a question: if somebody knocks on your door at midnight and tells you you have 5 minutes to get out of your house, what would you take with you? Since that time, I prepared a duffel bag with essential things: pajamas, $500, copy of my passport, a week's worth of medication, supplies, anything that is important, and it's sitting in the front closet. As I walk out, I can carry out with me. Whatever your situation, think about emergencies, because things do happen. But I want to talk more about life insurance and disability. The first thing is life insurance. People insure themselves in the event of, if they have an untimely death, to prevent their loved ones from financial disasters. Okay, so majority of the times you need the most insurance in your younger years, which is your accumulation year, and that is typically done through term insurance, which is the least expensive insurance for most money. So some of it is available through your employer, and we recommend to have one large insurance. You lock in the price for the next 20-30 years to have it outside of your employer's benefits, only because today nobody has the same employer forever. And if you walk away from an employment, and if you're not healthy, you may not be able to get this. For people who are looking beyond 30 years, may consider permanent insurance, either because they have, need to leave money for somebody. Half of my practice is special needs planning, and many of our clients have children with special needs. They fund their trust with permanent life insurance. But I want to walk you again with Aaron and let me see if I can find it. Aaron and Cindy's cash flow statement. So as I bring it here, take a look again. So Aaron doesn't have life insurance here. So my biggest concern was, why don't you have life insurance? And he said, I saved enough to really put a big down payment. I'm expecting 7-figure income in the coming years. I will not have this big a mortgage. And if at all I have an untimely death, maybe Cindy can move to a smaller home, because this is a nice 3-bedroom home. And I turned around and asked Cindy, do you want to move to a smaller home? And she said, we have never discussed this. It was never asked of me. And so my question is that the financial decisions doesn't have to be gender-based or one person's decision. It has to be both spouses have to agree on what each of them want for themselves. So here's a simple math. Their living expenses are $286,000. 33 is not even accounted for. When one person passes away, the expenses don't get cut in half. The national average says you still need over 70% of the same expenses that you had. And if you have any special circumstances, it can be 80, 85. So when you take a look at what are her needs, and so she is likely to need more than $160,000, $70,000. Her income is 100,000. I hope you all know that if both partners have paid into the FICA system, the surviving children and spouse will get money from Social Security until the children are 18 years old. But even if she gets $30,000, her income is still $130,000. How is she going to be able to afford to live there? So I told Cindy, I want you to do the calculation and we can figure out what amount of life insurance does your husband need to have so that you have choices whether you can live in that house or not. In case of Jonathan and Mira, I'm not going back to that, but I'm going to tell you, in case of Jonathan and Mira, they both had $1 million term insurance. Mira's death will create financial difficulty to Jonathan. So in that situation, Mira has to have larger amount of insurance. Always remember beneficiary designations, very, very critical. Please go back and you both need to check through your employer provided or other life insurance. You may have named your partner or spouse as the primary beneficiary. For single people, take a look at who you have named as primary beneficiary. Sometimes I have seen, even after they have been married 5-7 years, their parents are the beneficiary of the group insurance. In a couple cases, I have seen ex-wife being still the primary beneficiary. I'm sure the wife would have killed him anyway. But also have to think about if at all your primary beneficiary predeceases you, who is the next in line? Did you name your children? It's incorrect. Minors will not be allowed to have money. We will discuss this in detail when we talk about estate planning. Can somebody tell me how I'm doing on time?
Auntie, you're doing good. You have 15, 20 minutes, but
Okay, I have to race through this. Okay, so disability, we forget that our greatest asset is our ability to earn a living. So Aaron not having disability is really not a good decision. If you work for somebody, you will definitely have disability coverage. Almost 65%, it comes tax-free. So that is about risk exposure. People who are in business may have to get different kinds of insurance coverage and so on. Investment, I'm only going to go through with this very quickly. You are all investors because you have invested in mutual funds and 401k plan. You have your retirement plans. You may have 529 plans. So you know the basics. What I want to talk to you about is that, do you know exactly what you have? Have you opened the hood and tried to find out what exactly you have inside? So I'm going to just take a quick look and give you an information about what is the fundamental that you need to know about in investments. There are only two kinds of investments. Liquid, anything that's above the line here is all liquid investments. On the left side is anything that grows, is inflation protection. This is where we talk about stocks, mutual funds made up of stocks, exchange traded funds. And on the right side, we have all bonds, debt type of investments. And over the years, in my 41-year career, I have seen a lot of things evolve. Exchange traded fund is only 20 years. They're all made up of different indexes. But lately, people are talking a lot about digital and cryptocurrency. Most people cannot explain what it is or understand what it is, but it's going to create revolutionary changes in the coming years. pay attention to that. This is where we're talking about Bitcoins and things like that. Do not ignore all the noise that's going around. It has a lot of volatility, but even having 1% of your investment assets, and you can do it indirectly through ETF, it may help a lot. The reason we call this liquid investments is it only takes 3 to 5 working days to make it liquid. You may have penalty to cash in early, such as 401k IRA, but that's what it is. You can have market ups and downs, but they can be cashed in easily. The opposite of that is non-liquid investments. No matter how badly you need the money, you cannot get it easily, such as land, precious metals sometimes, or real estate. The fundamental rule is you should not enter into non-liquid investments until you have plenty of liquid investments. Your residence doesn't count. That's a use asset. That's not an investment asset. That's all I want to talk about in this category, basically, so that we can, at any point, I'm telling your PMS leaders here that if you feel that these are all important things, maybe we revisit these topics at a greater length, greater detail here. Determine your objectives, what is short-term, what is long-term, but the most important thing is know what you need and know what you have and work towards that. An educated consumer is the best consumer. Retirement plan, again, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it, but cash flow is the most important thing, because if you do have, if you're not contributing the most, take a look at your cash flow and do you have discretionary income? You need to maximize, because having that compound interest effect over the years will accumulate money faster. Are you contributing both in your Roth IRA as well as your regular IRA? That will help you grow faster. Today, this year, the tax laws are about to change, but even this year, if at all, if you want to know how much maximum to contribute in your 401k plan, it's $58,000, including your employer contribution, $19,500 tax deductible, plus employer matching, if any, and the rest you can do with after-tax money, and then you can use that to enter backdoor to Roth IRA. If it's complicated, ask me later, we'll talk about that. Why do we want to start early? Don't wait until the next bonus that you get or next raise that you get to add more to your 401k plan. Think about this. If you start at age 20 and you put in $2,000 a year and you have 6% rate of return, you will have accumulated $425,000 by the time you're 65. The longer you wait, the harder it is to accumulate. If you want to know what rule of 72 by Einstein is when will my money double? It depends upon how long you have and what the rate of return is. If you're going to get 12% rate of return, divide 72 by 12 and your money will double in 6. So the more conservative you are, the longer it's going to take you to double the money, basically. But there are reasons. Your money in emergency has to be conservative. Your 401 can be as aggressive as possible, and do not do what my 46-year-old client did, put everything in money market. Tax matters, I'm not going to have time to talk about. Just check with your accountant. Don't just sign on the dotted line when you file the tax return. Visit with an accountant after the tax season and see, are we doing the best we can in saving taxes? Your investments, after-tax investments, that are investments that are not tax efficient, such as mutual funds. How should you be investing? Those are all the things you need to be focused on together with your partner. If you're single, you do it yourself, but sit down with your accountant. Estate taxes, it's a tax that you may not be concerned, but this applies to your parents. It's a tax levied in your right to leave estate to your next generation beyond a certain amount. So this is not the time to talk about it, but when I get to estate planning, I'm going to talk something about your parents. Estate planning is #1 issue in my mind. The reason is because in a mature practice like mine, every year I'm involved personally in 10 to 12 postmortem planning cases. Either an older client has passed away, or sometimes our 50-year-old client has lost an 80-year-old parent. I find that this is an area that everybody should cross their T's and dot their I's. So estate planning, creating the documents is to generate, to provide administrative ease both during your lifetime as well as death, and avoid probate and make sure that the assets are passing to the right heir. But what happens if you don't do them? Well, it depends upon how the assets are registered, and assets pass through by laws. Majority of you may have some accounts that are jointly held. If you're single, you may want to have planning done differently, and I'll come back to that. But so joint property with rights of survivorship, often it's JTWROS, husband and wife own their home together or partners own their home together. One person passes away, the survivor automatically gets it. There is no legality involved in that. What happens if you're single and if you have assets? Now, in David's case, if you remember, the assets were held just in David's name. $1 million was under, no, I don't mean David, I meant Aaron, under Aaron's name. And all the contracts will pass through beneficiary designation. In life insurance, IRA, whoever you name as a beneficiary will be the only person who will inherit that money. Doesn't matter what you intended. But let's go back to the person who is single, or even if they're married, the person is putting the assets under their name. So say, for example, Aaron lives in New York and he has $1 million under his name. When he passes away, does Cindy get the money automatically? The answer is no. The first $100,000 will go to Cindy. The remaining assets will be divided based upon the state law, 50% to Cindy and 50% to the children. The children are minor, so they cannot hold assets. So by law, the probate court will appoint a conservator to manage the money for the children. Now, in this case, Cindy as the mother will be the natural person to manage the money. But at 18 or the age of majority, the children will get the money directly. Creates big problems. So what goes through probate? Always an asset that's held in one person's name alone. That is not a very good thing to do. Never have assets that's just in one person's name. You can register as transfer on death. It's called a TOD registration. So if you don't have any will, the state will make the will for you and it will pass through by probate laws. So what documents are you likely to have? These are the documents. You may want to create a living trust, either a joint, depending upon the size of the estate, or two separate. When you have a trust, you automatically get the wills. The will says that you have already put all the assets in the trust, but if you have forgotten something, then the will catch it all and pour it over into the trust. That's why it's called a pour over will. Pour over will is the most important document when you have younger children, because that's where you name the guardians for your minor children in case, God forbid, something happens to the parents. Powers of attorney for health and for finance. In the event you cannot make decisions on your own because of physical or mental inability, one should have power of attorney given to the spouse, both for health matters as well as finance. If you have any older members here and they have children who are over the age of 18 and they are single, they should have healthcare proxy or power of attorney for health matters. We had a case, a freshman at University of Michigan was hospitalized. The parents were contacted, they were on vacation, they flew back and rushed to the hospital only to be told by HIPAA laws, they cannot see the daughter's records. Do not let those matters be taken into account. You have to have the documents in place. This is a sample case of how your trust may look. You pretty much will have your home jointly held. Retirement assets, it's a contract. You only say give it to the surviving spouse. If you have children who are minor, the trust will be the beneficiary. This is the main bucket. And now you coordinate that with your finances. The life insurance beneficiary will be this trust, and your registration for your investments after tax will be Mr. and Mrs. Trustee of the trust. And then the trust will dictate when one person passes away, the surviving spouse will be the manager of this trust, And then also it'll be for her or his benefit. When they both pass away, the children will inherit the money at certain stages. If you have larger asset or if you're likely to inherit money, then people like to have two trusts. Many times, if you have a profession that you need creditor protection, most of our physician clients, if they are exposed to malpractice, they do all of their investments under the spouse that is not exposed to that. So you can have two trusts, but it follows the same principle. And then coordination. Just doing the legal documents and not connect the dot with your finances will not bring the best results. I want to address also, your parents are my generation. We are first generation immigrants, most of you are attending. You must make sure that they have done their legal planning and they have done it correctly. Parents are not always communicative of their financial matters. They're very private about it. Because you are likely to be involved directly or indirectly, please make it your business to know where they are. They may not ask for help, but please make it your business, as I said, to see where they are. And what is your role? Are you familiar with their planning, life planning issues? Health is going to be impacted as they get older. Do they have enough assets to take care of? 70% chance that either one of them or both the parents will need long-term care. Are they going to be able to do this financially? Or is the assets are going to deplete when one spouse passes away, and what's going to be left for the surviving spouse? Do they need to get, have they looked at their home equity? Are they going to be using that? All of those things are major concerns, and you want to get involved because a lot of you don't live where your parents do. What is going to be their future? You need to talk about this. They talk among their friends, but it needs to be addressed with you. So, so I'm not going to cover this. If there are business owners, they can call me and ask this. So how do you manage all these things? All this talk is great. You're going to go and take care of this yourself. But here is what we have found statistically. 36% of women say they don't think they can afford one. Have they been looked into whether it's affordable or not? 39% of women never considered hiring a financial advisor. Maybe they haven't had that moment of awareness or lightning that, yes, I need to have one. 27% of women are uncertain about how to select an advisor. You may consider going to cfp.com and you may look into are there advisors in your area and interview one or two to see who you can select. 10% women don't trust financial institutions, but you don't have to go with a Northern Trust Company or a Comerica, but find an individual one. And 15% of women don't think they need a financial advisor. Maybe they are the one who are very involved in taking care of themselves. But why do women do hire when they do? They seek better results and they don't have enough experience or confidence in themselves, or they just feel it's nice to be able to hold hands of somebody who can guide. And if there are any questions, they can ask, or when the laws change, they can automatically be informed. It's not always easy to find competent advisors who want to work with young clients, but there are good ones and you can find one. And I'll be happy to talk to you more about it if you have specific questions or you need a consultation. So the question is, if you want to do this yourself or if your spouse wants to do this, are you capable of being the quarterback? You may know some things about investments, some things about real estate, but as you can see, so many components are connected with each other and one relies on the other and depends on the other. You may not be able to do this because of time constraint. It requires ongoing education, and financial planning is not just about investments. And you can say, I'm going to do this next year, but it's not. Today is the most important day. You must get started yesterday. And at different stages, you're going to have different requirements. One thing from 25 to 40, 40 to 55, and so on. And it also depends how complex your situation is. And it could get more complex when you lose your parents, inherit some money, or you have to bend to help them out. All of those things have to be taken into consideration. What to look for in an advisor? Of course, integrity, competency, how well they work, what's their firm like? Do they have other people in the firm? we believe in generational practice. We don't, if something happens to me, I don't want my clients to scramble and look for another advisor. Do you need any specialization? I work with women, small business owners, special needs planning. What is your situation? Do you need any of those things? Firm culture is very important. Comprehensive planning skills. A robo-advisor is only inexpensive investment management. They are not capable of giving all of the tools, other things. And they need to be able to work with CPAs and trust advisor if necessary, or attorneys to create other documents. So those are the things one need to look for. But what's your next step? Are you going to commit, take charge if you have not already done so? If you have done it, I commend you. I salute you for doing that and keep up the good work. Get organized for a new beginning. Get a second opinion if you think that you have done some things well, but you're not 100% sure. So Emily, please drop the Google form in the chat in case somebody's interested. And please, I hope that you have enjoyed it. I would love to have your comments, and I'll be open to have questions from you.
So everyone, you guys can go off of unmute. If you have a question, feel free to chat it in or ask Minoti directly. Just a couple of things. I did see a couple of easy questions. Minoti, one is, can we share the replay as well as the presentation for those who want that offline?
Yes, you can. As long as it's it's sort of copyrighted. It's something that I've created myself. I don't want it to be misused, but if you just want to use it just to get the pointers from that, yes, you're welcome to do so.
Awesome. And then we have also, you'll see on the screen some very live poll questions. If you guys can take those questions, it takes about a second. We can, get the readout right after. But one question, Minoti Auntie, that came up is, I saw it in the chat. Does your group do estate planning nationwide or just certain states?
Estate planning is, so there are 8 states that have different laws, which is the community property state. We design, so I have clients all over the country, but you have to use the attorneys that the state that you live in, but we do the planning. Lawyers are not planners. They can work with you, but in our practice, we do the planning and then we coordinate with lawyers.
That's a good distinction. Lawyers can't do that work. This poll is really just like a pulse on who we have in the room. So we have 63%, 65% that have filled it out. If we can just take a second, that way we kind of know really where everyone is. I think this was an amazing discussion. It was both high level, but also very detailed. So thank you for that. And then if people have some questions, or even if Minoti Auntie, you wanted to share any additional information that you didn't get a chance to.
I had one question. Do you do tax advisory planning? I mean, I know you're not a tax accountant, but as you look at someone's portfolio, do you help them with optimizing on that front?
Yes, we use tools. So when we take a look at portfolio, we always will ask. So whenever we do a consultation, we'll always send you a questionnaire like we have a much more detail. But in the things that we need, one of them is your tax return, because your tax return will tell us a lot about what's happening. Are you paying a lot of capital gains taxes because of the turning that you have done? So there will be advice given as to how to rectify that problem.
Thanks.
I thought I saw a question about how does a financial advisor charge? Is that a question? So some in our practice, and majority of the practitioners who practice the way I do, if you have to do a plan, we always charge a flat amount, a basic flat amount, depending upon the complexity of the plan. And then that becomes sort of your base level. And from that, you develop strategies that you can implement. So oftentimes it's It's implementing risk management recommendations. So ours is a one-stop shop. We do all of the insurance needs as well as investment needs. And because we are not licensed to create legal documents, we bring in the attorneys. But as a result of which, we have your full picture and it's a coordinated plan. So the insurance compensates us. We do fee-based investment management. That's how we get compensated.
Other questions from the group?
There are questions coming in, Jill. Do you want to read them out loud? Izuri had a question about,
Yeah, somebody
Um,
asking, excuse me, I saw that somebody is asking, where is the best place to look for life insurance? Well, the number one is, who is determining, how do you know what you need? Are you working through a professional who can first help you determine what your life insurance needs are? That advisor, maybe that person may be able to get you life insurance because they are often licensed and they have access to many, many companies, and they will get an analysis done. If you feel that you are on your own, then there are certain websites, I forget what those names are, but quotesmith.com and things like that. That's for term insurance. You can just get it directly from them. The hard part is to figure out what is it that you need, who is doing the calculation.
I think a related question, and you can ask it yourself. People feel free to unmute. And also if you want to go off video, that's great, or on video. But I don't want to butcher your name. I think it's Azuri, similar to my niece's name. She asked, if you are single and have no children, is life insurance necessary?
No, not necessary. But if you have a home and there's a mortgage, what's going to happen to that mortgage if you pass away? Recently, I was involved in a family where there was a young death, single person. She was in a business and no life insurance either. So there were liabilities, and in your old age of the parents, you don't want to have them go through those hassles. So it all depends upon, you may not have children, but are there any liabilities? But so it all depends upon circumstances. There is no one glove that fits all situation.
Minoti, I have like a naive question about disability. I think when folks are younger, they think they don't need to get any disability insurance. At what age or at what phase is there a right time to get disability insurance? How would you advise the best time for that?
So as I mentioned, that we don't always remember that our greatest asset is our ability to work and earn a living. And that ensuring that is disability coverage. So there is no age. If you're an earning factor, to replace the lost income caused by a health-related problem or an accident is a disability insurance. If you're employed by a large firm, you automatically get insurance from them for disability, which is both short-term and long-term disability. And that gives you almost 65% of your salary tax-free. If you're self-employed, it's up to you. You have to prove to IRS or the insurance company basically that you have earnings, because sometimes when we are self-employed, we come up with very creative expenses to write it off. What you're truly showing on the 1040 is what income that you can insure. For that, there is no age. If you're 25 and if you have proven income as a self-employed person, you need to insure that. And if you are, you will also be covered by Social Security disability, but you have to be completely disabled for 12 months before you can even apply. And then it takes another 6 months to get it approved. So if you are working for somebody, if you have group disability and you are approved by Social Security, your group disability will be proratedly decreased. So you have to make sure that you understand and you have adequate emergency reserves until you qualify for something, because your disability at work, some companies don't offer short-term, just long-term. But one of my employees was very sick and through COVID and is currently collecting long-term disability. Not all small companies offer that benefit, but most of our physician and attorney who are self-employed clients, they bought their disability before they bought their life insurance. You know why? Once you are dead, you're dead. You're not here to see what's going on. But disability is like living death. You have all your expenses and do not have the ability to earn a living. That is really hard on the families. So disability coverage is extremely important. And later on, when parents are older, when people are older, 55 and above, they need to think about the long-term care disability coverage also. Most parents, most people shy away from talking about that.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions coming in. One from Raquel Salvador from Redwood City. She's asking, where is a good place to look to start investing if you have no expertise, and to go away from the money market account?
So what you can do is find you can start with the bank. You can go to brokerage firm like Charles Schwab or Fidelity and ask somebody to spend some time, but do some study on your own. You know, look up online, what is a mutual fund? What is an exchange traded fund? Do some basic homework so that when you're sitting down with a professional, whatever they talk to you about, it registers with you. It's not just you're looking at blankly at his or her face. Go with some education yourself and then talk to somebody who can help you. And do not get too scattered. I mean, if you buy 3 mutual funds initially, but find out how to read a mutual fund statement. Morningstar is a company that does in detail analysis. In one mutual fund, if you open the hood, there may be 45 different stocks. So you don't want to buy 2 mutual funds who have similar stock. You want diversification. So I didn't get a chance to talk about all the details. I can talk about investments hour and a half all by itself. So you need to have the principle of diversification, asset allocation, but do some of the homework by studying yourself. And once you do it over a period of time, read it 4 times, 5 times, and then find somebody to sit down and have. And if another friend or somebody knows something about, exchange or share information with that person.
We have a question from Emily Rizzo. You mentioned you should never elect a minor as your life insurance beneficiary. Could you expand on this, please? And would the money go into a holding account until they're 18?
So let's say you have $100,000 life insurance and you name your child who's 12 years old. So by law, the child under the age of 18 in most states is the age of a majority. The 12-year-old child is minor. So the minor is not allowed to have money. So the court will appoint a conservator. A guardian is a non-money related person in charge, and a conservative is a person who manages the money. So it depends upon who probate appoints. If you have an untimely death, if you have a sibling, parent, whoever appeals to the court and through the process of probate, the court will appoint and say, Mr. XYZ or Miss XYZ, conservator for minor child. And then at the age, and that person's responsibility is to manage the money and submit to the probate court annual report through a CPA or an attorney, and that's an expensive process as well. And so then when the child is 18, the money becomes, the owner of the money is the child, and they are not money mature. And as a result of which, the best thing is to do is to create a living trust and say that upon my death, my life insurance will be held in a trust for my child. And this person is going to be the successor trustee of my trust for the benefit of my child. And the money is going to be used for health support, maintenance, and education for my child. And maybe he can or she can have 1/3 at the age of 25, 1/3 at the age of 30, and the balance will be given to him or her at 35, and the trust comes to an end. That is how the process works.
Other questions people want to ask or chat in? I think I've gone through all, but in case I've missed, we have another question. Or Pollock has a comment. Pollock, you want to say it out loud if you'd like?
Not really. I just think that this conversation is a challenging one to have because it's hard to know where everyone is in their finance journey. And it can feel, I mean, even I think you shared some really good case studies about people that make a really good salary that don't have anything saved or invested. And I just wanted to share a personal story of when my family started consulting with Minoti. It was after my dad passed away suddenly. He was the breadwinner in the family. My mom never worked. Officially, she always liked to invest our money in the stock market, so she was always interested in that. But it was really a very sudden awakening of having 3 kids at home, no direct income, a high mortgage, and just really having to navigate that path. And I think in consulting a financial planner, getting a hold of her, where the money was and where it wasn't, 15 years later, she's she's a finance enthusiast. I would say she loves to invest and has taken an amazing control over our family finances. So for anyone that's listening, I just want to make sure people know, if you have a partner and your partner's always been in charge of the finances, I do think this is a really relevant conversation, even just to have those introductory questions that you can, start your financial education journey. And over time, you'll be amazed at how much you learn.
Pollock, thank you for sharing that. I can, as the daughter of this woman, it can be, it has been daunting, right? Because she's such an expert on these matters. And so growing up in a house, if you're just not naturally inclined to these topics, or if you marry someone who didn't grow up in a similar household where these are just very practical, real conversations, if in-laws who don't want to talk about these things that we're trying to plan for, and it can be scary. But the more you actually get on top of it, talk to one attorney about your estate planning, open up cfp.net and actually put a cash flow statement together, or even try to list out your expenses, or use an app like I use Mint, and it's very helpful to categorize my expenses. All of those things make you feel a lot more in control, even if you're not an expert. And so little by little, the more that you do, the more you create habits. And, again, even growing up in this household, I would never consider myself an expert on any of those things. I'm just in the journey like anybody else. But I've obviously had the benefit of tips and tricks like the finance dates. Those are something we do. Are they always peaceful and happy dates? No, not always, but they certainly are helpful. And afterwards, after we come to some decisions in those meetings, we always feel a lot better.
Thank you for sharing, Palak and Kea both, because the only goal that I have after all these things, that if something happens in life and you feel distressed, or you can feel confident, I'd rather you didn't feel distressed because you didn't pay attention to this. We all will have a very hard time, no matter how well prepared you are. And that's what I find in every postmortem planning, that no matter what you do, there'll always be something. But money brings in a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger at times when you have not done the planning. And money is not something that always goes smooth in discussion with your partner or spouse. Money brings in a lot of challenges with siblings if the parents have not done their estate planning correctly. And I have so much experience in that. That's why I'm very, I am very forceful about in my urges to tell you all that please pay attention. Please do it. Take care of your children's needs, take care of your parents, and just do the right thing, and then sit back and say, I've done everything I can. And if something happens, I'm better prepared.
Auntie, we have a question, and maybe we have a couple minutes for any additional questions, and then we'll kind of wrap up with the poll results that we see here. One question came in: how often should you update your estate plan?
Estate plans should be updated as and when circumstances change or the laws change. Your legal documents will take care, even if you did your first document when your first child was born, and you had 2 other children later on, that doesn't mean that you have to rush into doing this because the children are all taken care of. But in case you move from one state to the other, or you have a large income, or you have inherited money, or the state laws or federal tax laws change, those will require you to change the legal documents.
And we have a question that's coming in. Are there specific steps or tips or advice to think through planning for your parents' needs if they haven't?
Well, you know what? You'll be surprised, but give them the cash flow statement to work on. I've been teaching retirement classes for 55 and above at various universities, and this is an exercise we make them go through. 90% of people have never done that. So you have to know what their needs are. A lot of people live conservatively. They are not, oftentimes they are frugal, but you have to know what they have. Have them fill out the net worth statement. I think that's going to be first step, and then find out, are they very scattered, which is very, very common. They have an account in Schwab, they have an account in Fidelity, they have money here, money there. Help them clean up things. And I will not be surprised if many of them have accounts that's just in one person's name. So communication is the first thing. Have them let you in their financial world. Take their permission, be gentle in the beginning if they resist, but urge them that it's for their own good to do this. You don't want to have your lack of planning as a single person burden on your aging parents, nor do you want your parents' lack of planning to be a burden on you in your busy life as professionals, as well as with children. None of them is great.
So I think if there's no more questions, we can maybe just read the stats of the poll. I find it interesting. Can everyone see the poll launched, the results on your screen? Yeah.
This was, I think 75% of our total that were here today, so 25 people filled this out. And I think it is interesting. It looks like we had a pretty mixed group. 60% said that they feel like they know the fundamentals or maybe new, and 8% said no, and 32% that they might now. 72% that they said that they invest in the stock market. So it's like 30% said that they do not. 96% said that they do contribute to their 401k, so that's great.
That's wonderful.
100% of people said that the session made them feel more empowered to take action on their financial planning. So thank you so much, Minoti and Anthony. And then we did ask the question because I think that, you know, just to be frank, this is tough. Why aren't you personally interested in finances? Some people said they're too busy, but most people said almost 50% of people said that they are interested. Almost a quarter of the people said that their partner takes care of it. And a quarter were honest about the fact that this is overwhelming, which it is, but it's one step at a time. And last but not least, would you like to see more financial related salons? 96% said yes. 4%, which is actually just one person, said no. but and maybe they already have their own financial planning. I'll stop sharing. So oh, go ahead. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah, I was waiting to see Priya was back on. I found this, I know, Auntie, we talked about this, and this could have been a 3, 4. I mean, it can be multiple days, week of a journey. So we appreciate you condensing the information in an hour and a half. It obviously is not enough to go full-fledged in detail, but we encourage you guys to obviously take action and take the next steps. And even reach out to Minoti Auntie if you want to engage with her on and explore further on any of these topics and look for a financial planner. A lot of this stuff was probably, you know, intuitive, maybe it's new, but it's a lot of reinforcement and things that you may have missed or things you want to delve deeper on. So this was super insightful. I found it to be very helpful. I hope that all of you guys did too. As mentioned, we will share the document offline. Have those conversations with your parents, have the financial date, do a dinner date with your spouse or significant other, make it a goal to talk about this on a cadence. And anyone else, if you guys have any last departing comments or stories you want to share, you guys can, we're happy to stay on. And then Auntie, I'll give you the mic back to you if you want to close on it.
One more thing, my beautiful, almost 10-year-old granddaughter is starting her early education. And I was just telling Kaya the other day, it's never too early to start talking about money matters at home. And it's not a taboo topic for as your children get older, they need to know where their privileges are coming from and how things are getting paid. So it's always a welcome topic. Yes.
Great. All right, well, we were right on time. Again, so Emily did drop the form. Pollock also resent the form out if you want to engage with Minoti Auntie and explore further. There's some sites and other things, and we will share the presentation and the replay offline as well to those who joined the Zoom.
And thank you very much. I feel honored to be here today and talk to all of you.
Yes, we feel very honored to have you. So thank you again. And yes, for future sessions, we will be in touch, Auntie.
Welcome. I will be happy
Thank you
to.
guys.
Okay. Goodbye.
Good night.
Everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Minoti. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.